Scott again with Rendall's Cleaning, and we showed you the inspection on the latex backed needle punched rug. Next we're going to look at a very fine silk rug, and this has just been cleaned yesterday. It's all dry. We have a drying tester that we put on the rug to make sure it's dry all the way through, and you can tell that the quality of this rug is extremely high. You see how many knots? These are called knots on the back here. The more knots per inch, the higher the quality of the rug. We can tell this is handmade because it's so uneven. See these white lines that run through here? If this was machine made, all these lines would be perfectly straight. But you can tell that this has a handmade rug because of the unevenness, which also lends to the higher quality of a rug. If it looks perfectly straight, then some people actually look at that as a devaluing process. Not always. Some people look for perfection, but I like a rug personally that looks like it's handmade. This one has a little bit of issues going on with the knots. We have the white knot issue again, as we showed in a previous video on a different rug. We have threadbare, so we see that there's actually fibers missing here. Now this is all pre-existing, and I looked at it and noted this in the pre-inspection before we washed it. And not only that, this rug had urine on it. And so overall, I'm going to kind of take in the whole rug and just sense to see if there's any issues. I'm going to use my, at least a few senses here, a couple of senses. I'm going to use my hand to feel it, and I'm going to use my eyes, and then I'm going to smell it too. And I like to kind of take a rug and just sniff the whole thing, because there's nothing better to figure out whether the urine's gone than an odor test. If you have a bad sniffer, it's probably not a good industry to get into, because we use those three senses often. And oftentimes we'll not see anything in the rug and it'll smell really bad. And that's because that urine is usually hiding in the foundation back here, but hasn't made it up to the top surface. Okay, so I took it in overall. I'm going to look at the fringe itself, and the fringe looks pretty decent, a little uneven on this side. It can be touched up and cleaned by hand. So we'll clean the fringe on this one by hand. The selvage looks pretty good. We're looking for any bleeding, we're looking for unevenness in coloring, and also if there's knots that don't belong in the right spot. So when this rug came in, there's actually a few of these that were knotted like this, and so we just untie them. We don't untie this knot because that's what holds the knot onto the selvage here to stop the selvage from coming apart. So these knots are important, but if there's one that's down here at the bottom that doesn't belong, we just untie it. Alright, so that's this rug. This one is also a silk rug. And one of the things I kind of noticed right away is the feel of this rug. It's a little bit crusty, and with the vacuuming that should come right out. On a silk rug, the last step we take is to make sure we groom the fibers all in the same direction, otherwise it dries with streaks. So on a silk rug especially, we're setting the nap as it's drying to make sure that it stands up. So when it dries, it has a tendency to kind of get hard. These fibers are a little bit hard. With a couple of vacuumings, the hardness of this will come right out. The stiffness, I should say. Overall, I'm going to look at it and notice there is a little bit of streaking up here. Again, we'll vacuum that. It should come right out. It's just the way the light's hitting it from this angle. And same thing over here. I don't see any yellow marks. I don't see any soil left over. If it did have soil left over, we would clean it again. I'm going to inspect the back when I take it down and do the same thing. I'm looking for streaks or spots or something that would indicate that the rug still needs to be cleaned again. It's not unusual for us to clean a rug several times because we have to wait for it to dry, and as it dries, sometimes the foundation will pull more soil up to the top that we can see, or the bottom. Lastly, I'm going to look at the fringe. And this fringe actually looks pretty decent. here's a little problem right here. I see that there used to be at one time a ring that a tag was held on with, and it's rusted here, so we'll take care of that next. And you can see that the selve edge actually has been cut off, and I'm sure that's probably because of years of vacuuming. Over time, if you ever vacuum a rug with fringe on it, you never want to go onto the fringe this way with the brush roll. The brush roll goes this way if you're moving it this way. Subsequently, what happens is it'll peel this up and suck it into the brush roll of the vacuum. When we vacuum a rug like this, sometimes we don't even vacuum this part because it'll fall apart. Like this part we'll not even vacuum. So we'll actually take the vacuum with the brush roll rolling this way and pull it back pretty quickly, not stopping anywhere near here, so that we can brush through the fibers this way. When it's on a hard surface like this and we brush downward, it's basically combing out the fibers, combing out the cotton fringe. This one's a cotton fringe. So that's a little tip for you to think about when you are vacuuming a rug with fringe. Just make sure your brush roll is going the right way, and don't vacuum over anything that looks frayed or the knots are coming apart. So that's about all for our rug inspections today, and I'm Scott with Rendall Certified Cleaning.